Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather round for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Where Yinz Goin podcast, proudly brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh to the furthest corners of the globe, that'll be your compass, your confidant, your companion in that as we explore the wonders of travel. Kick back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust wash over you as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Dreams by Design Travel by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt on the Where Yinz Goin podcast because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shout for your guide through the highways and byways of travel, the man with a map, the voice of the stale city, Matt Trader.
How Yinz doing? Welcome to the Where Yinz Goin podcast, brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. I'm Matt. I'm your host. Joining me again today is Donna, the person who taught me nearly everything I know about the travel advisor industry. So if I ever mess up, it's not my fault. We can blame her, right, Donna? So.
Oh yeah.
I never met, I just don't make mistakes because, once I thought I made a mistake, but I was wrong. So.
Yeah.
But no, welcome back, Donna. It's wonderful to have you again.
Thanks, Matt. Glad to be here. Talk about one of my very, very favorite trips I've ever taken to a Disney destination.
And that's a great segue into the way we normally start, or the way we always start our podcast is, do you have a favorite place you visited or a place you'd like to visit the most? I know you mentioned Disneyland before. Did you want to just reminisce more about that, or do you have another place that you'd like to throw in there?
I want to go back to Yosemite. My son lives out that way, so whenever we go, I always try to can we just do Yosemite? Is there any way we can work that in? So we didn't do that this last time, but I have a feeling we will be doing it maybe one of these upcoming years. Yeah, that for right now, I love that park. I love national parks and just the scenery and getting away from it all and even disconnecting. It kind of forces you to put the phone down because there's no cell coverage in a lot of places. National parks kind of have it, but as you're traveling, you just kind of get a chance to look out the window and not down at your phone. So that's kind of my thing lately, that I even like more than theme parks, actually. So yeah, for right now, next time you ask me, it might be something, it will probably be another thing too, because I just keep finding these places I want to go to.
And Yosemite is my favorite place to visit. And anyone else who's listening, if you want to go back a few episodes, my dad and I talked about going to Yosemite on one of the earlier episodes of the podcast. And how do you get there? Do you normally fly into San Francisco and then drive?
The time that we went there, we did fly into San Francisco, and my son flew down from wherever he was living at the time, flew in, and then, oh no, you know what? He drove down because then he took us in his car and we drove all over the place. We went to a lot of different places that trip, because there's so much you can see in close proximity out there. So you have to take advantage, especially someone like me who doesn't get out there all the time, usually once a year, which is still not enough. But there's a little secret I haven't really told too many people. We're planning on moving to Oregon.
No way.
Yeah.
Breaking news, everybody.
Breaking news. Yeah, it's going to be not this coming year, but the following year. We have a lot of things we want to do before then. So, but that is that's all I can think about lately. It's hard to focus on anything else. And we're really excited. My son said, Mom, that would be the greatest gift you could ever give me. So when he said that, I'm like, it's going to happen if I have to walk. But anyways, that's another podcast that we'll have to talk about on our journey west.
Driving across the country. I know some people who've done that. So
yeah. He did it
experience.
originally when he left here to go out there. He drove his car across the country, but 2 dogs, 2 cats, And a whole house? Well, we'll see. Yeah, it's gonna be a challenge, but I'm up for it.
Wonderful. So our topic today is going to be Adventures by Disney, which Donna was fortunate enough to go on a one of their trips. We're gonna give some background information, and then we'll go into what um what Donna did on her adventure. So it started on May 5th, 2005. So 555. It's a good day to start
Wow.
things.
Yes, that's that old already. Wow.
The first year they only did trips to Wyoming and Hawaii, and I'm assuming Wyoming would include Yellowstone or Jackson Hole or Grand Tetons around that area.
Mm.
Whenever I was researching, I couldn't find any specific details about where they went. And then they pretty much added 5 destinations per year for the next couple of years. And now it's pretty much easier to list where they don't go than to list everywhere they do go. So
True. That is very, very true.
they've really expanded, and they have all kinds of different even types of trips. There's land adventures, small ship adventures, what they call escapes, adult exclusive adventures, which include wine tastings. And then
Mhm.
they have the private jet adventures, which those just look so amazing
Oh
to
my
fly around
gosh.
the world on a private jet.
And one little note about that is they sell out. Like they can't keep them. Like I would think who can afford this? It was like 120 some $1,000s per person.
Mhm.
But it's unbelievable what they do. So they do sell out. So there is a big need for those. So that's good.
And they hit several, you know, amazing locations, that are, World Heritage sites around the world. But you also get to go to all of the Disney parks on that too.
Oh, talk about a bucket list.
Seriously, couple of bucket lists all at once. So start ticking thing off it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Holy heck.
So what these Adventures by Disney include, you get your adventure guides, which they know their stuff, that they are experts in these fields, or at least they're fooling us because they talk a good game. They will give you so much information as you're going around. You get a VIP experience, insider access, storytelling. Of course, with Disney, you're going to get storytelling. They cover the accommodations, your transportation and transfers, all admission fees to wherever you're going, and most of your meals. So it's just about an all-inclusive trip whenever you go with Adventures by Disney. There's not too much you have to pay out of pocket while you're actually there, except for maybe souvenirs.
True. Yeah, some souvenirs. But they do give like a pin, so that's nice.
And that's a big thing with Disney fans are
Yeah.
the collector pins.
Yeah.
That we had a previous episode that we talked about the behind the scenes tours, both at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. And one of the neat things is whenever you do one of those tours is that they give you a commemorative pin to go with it.
Hmm.
So I have a collection of those, and another one we talked about the Run Disney stuff, and I've done the virtual races a couple of times, and along with the medals, they give you a little pin that's themed to whatever that year's thing is. So
Yeah.
it's neat stuff to have, and pin trading in Disney is just huge. So many
I
people.
thought I thought it would die down, but it hasn't. It's still just as big as it ever was.
I'm more of a pin collector than a trader. That once I get them, it's like, no,
Yeah.
it's too good. I don't want to give it away.
Yeah,
So
they are fun.
Adventures by Disney goes to 6 of the 7 continents. So in Africa, just to give you an idea, Egypt, Morocco, and South Africa, China, Japan, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Asia. They go to Australia and then New Zealand. In Central and South America, there's Colombia, Costa Rica, Peru, the Galapagos Islands, Ecuador, along the Amazon River. Yeah, they go through at least 16 countries in Europe.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I made a list here that covers about half of the page. They have different river cruises you can go on that they partner with Alma Waterways, which just in and of themselves do a fabulous job with their river cruises. You
Yeah,
can do,
they are top of the line for river cruises, so you know Disney's going to partner with the best.
oh, absolutely. Some of those river cruises along the Danube or the Rhine will include the Christmas markets or Oktoberfest or food and wine tours. So And then in North America, they have Alaska, Arizona, and Utah is one trip. The Canadian Rockies, Wyoming, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. And then the one that Donna did is Disneyland and Southern California.
That's it.
So we're gonna,
Of all the ones on the ABD, that is the one that I would have done first anyways. And that is the one where I had the opportunity to do it. So I'm really glad. I was really lucky that that was the one I was, oh my gosh, I would want to do that. And then when I was asked about it, I immediately emailed, like within 30 seconds, I emailed back our BDM with Disney and said, I have to do that. And she said, she knew I would, she knew I would be wanting that. So yeah, I got in really quick. Okay, Jim.
one of those situations of, oh, I don't know, let me think. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it. It was gonna happen. I was so excited. It's all I could think about was I couldn't wait for it to come out.
Before we get into the full details about that, I wanted to look back the around the world private jet. It goes for 24 days. You start in LA, go to San Francisco, where you get to visit the Walt Disney Family Museum, Lucasfilm, which is right near there, and then Skywalker Ranch. Then you go to Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Agra, Cairo, Paris, and then Orlando. So, and Agra is the Taj Mahal.
Wow.
So yeah,
that is crazy. And it includes all the admissions for the parks, and even 24 days doesn't sound like enough time to do all that, but I guess it is when you're going VIP. You don't wait for anything.
So, but let's dive into your trip that you took, Donna. So Disneyland in Southern California covers 6 days. You get 11 meals, 5 breakfasts, 3 lunch, 3 dinner, and there is an age limit that everyone must be at least 6 years old. So it's not much of an age limit.
No.
But just the stamina to keep up with a full day and not needing naps, that type of thing. And just for the kids to sort of appreciate it more. And whenever you're going to the parks, you want them to be able to do as many attractions as possible. And we're excited. Our 4-year-old, she'll be 5 at the end of October. She is now just about 44 inches tall. So whenever we go to Walt Disney World in January, she gets to ride Space Mountain. So,
oh yeah, that'll be great. And that is a good point. And those ride minimums are just for safety, but it's always fun when you put the measuring stick up and they've made it, and you're excited to see that first ride picture for that stuff. Oh man.
yeah. The first time we took her, she was 3 when we went to Disneyland, and she couldn't do too many of the bigger attractions. But then this past year, we went to Walt Disney World, and she was exactly 42 inches tall, like 42 inches and a hair. So she got to do Big Thunder Mountain, Slinky Dog Dash, which she loved.
Oh yeah.
She even did Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind, and she had a good time on that too. So we're looking to expand, and then she'll be able to do Tiana's Bayou Adventure this time around too, now that that's open.
Yeah, you're raising her right, getting her on those rides young. That's what I did too. Now they're big riders.
We just went to Kennywood, local amusement park in Western Pennsylvania, and she got to ride the Jackrabbit. So,
oh, did she go up on that double dip and fly in the air? That always, to this day, still scares me.
yeah, I was riding with her, and she loved it though. It was a little bit of the terror look on her face of, what was that? It's like, oh, okay, that was fun.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, with the Adventure by Disney trip down in Southern California, you start off by arriving in either LAX or Long Beach. And I know we've talked about this before, Long Beach.
Definitely Long Beach over LAX every day, all day. It's an old-fashioned airport where you deplane down the ramp or down steps. You don't actually have a jetway. So for me, that's when I go to California, I want to feel like I'm going back to when I go to Disneyland, I'm going back to Walt's time at Disneyland. And to me, that just starts the trip and that feeling you get, because it's an old-fashioned entrance to the whole experience. you get to walk down the ramp, you walk outside. If it's raining, they'll have like a little roof they can put over, but the luggage carousel is like an open air luggage carousel. So, and it's a short trip to Disneyland from there compared to LAX. You don't have nearly the traffic. So if you have a choice, it's usually LAX may be a little bit cheaper, but it is so much worth a tiny bit more for Long Beach. Depending on the city that you depart from, it's going to make a difference in the price. But it's still definitely worth. Time is money. You don't want to be stuck in traffic when you could be on your way to your next destination. With Adventures by Disney, we were going to the hotel, but if you're going to the parks and your hotel or your hotel's near the parks, you want to get there, as soon as you can.
Yeah, especially if you're traveling from, Eastern United States, traveling across the country, you're going to be on a 4 or 5 hour flight, and that's if it's direct. And then if you have to make connections, it's a long travel day.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
shorter you can make that with not having to sit in traffic and just to be able to get to the hotel and relax and
Yeah.
unwind and unpack and get your vacation started,
Mhm.
it is.
Yeah. It's a less hassle because you literally walk over. Everything's open air there. You walk into the terminal, then you go back outside, your open air luggage. You just go a little bit further and you can catch a cab or a Lyft. That's usually what I recommend for transportation. Now, in this case, we had people meeting us. So we didn't have to worry about catching that cab, which is what's nice about Adventures by Disney because your transfers are included. So, my particular case, I went a day early because I wanted to adjust to the time change. That is, one tip I would recommend if you can. If you're coming from the East Coast, if you can arrive a day early, get your body acclimated to that 3 hour difference. So they still, even though I came a day early, they were still, we'll be there. We'll be there to get you. And they took me, to where I wanted to go. So I wasn't, I just, I think it was even a lower price for the arrival date that I went a day early. That was another good thing about it. But then once, they'll be there standing there with your name on a cardboard, or not a cardboard, it's on an iPad. And they'll whisk you off to the first hotel. And remember, all these hotels are top of the line hotels. So that's what they did with us. We were off to our first adventure. To me, just arriving at a beautiful hotel in LA is, that's the first day. We were excited to just get there, check in, see where they were putting us, and meet all the people that were going to be on our adventure. You'll meet all the same people like that night when they have their reception.
And the hotel that they stay at currently is the Lowe's Hollywood Hotel, which is near the TCL Chinese Theater. Used to be Grumman's Chinese Theater, name change. The El Capitan Theater, which is right across the street, and the Walk of Fame that runs right by there.
Yeah.
And you get a welcome dinner at the hotel that night. And talk about you're flying out to LA, you're getting like the movie star treatment. This is
Kind of, yeah, exactly how it is. Yeah.
this is right out of the movies.
Yeah. Yeah. And you feel like, you're right at steps away from the Dolby Theater where they have the Oscars. We were hungry when we got there, but we only wanted something light because we knew we had that reception later. So we checked into to that hotel, which was a beautiful old, huge, beautiful lobby. The rooms are a little bit older, but our view, when I looked out the window and saw the Hollywood sign, I felt like I was in a dream. Like, is this really happening? This is what I've always wished I could do. I could never afford Lowe's on my own. I wouldn't book that on my own. It's so much money, but it's included in your, in your fare. So we checked in, we went and got our credentials, met our guides, and literally, like, we didn't even have to go outside. We said, oh, there's so many places right here. We walked through like a short walkway, like a hallway, and there we were at this outdoor mall, which connects to the Dolby Theater. So we just were taking pictures of everything. Well, then it started to storm a little bit. So we put on rain. They give you rain ponchos. Here's a rain poncho. You might need this later. So they just hand those out any day that you could possibly need it. You don't have to worry about that stuff. So we, hung out on Hollywood Boulevard a little bit. It was pouring rain. When it never rains in Southern California unless I go. So, but we didn't care. We were like sloshing through puddles. We finally ended up with a luncheon at, because I had an early flight. We had luncheon at the Hard Rock, and they had to open a section for us because nobody was coming in there. They said it's usually packed, but because of the weather, Hollywood Boulevard was a ghost town. So we got to walk around all these neat places and look at the stars. And the rain did eventually let up. We walked over to the soda shop, the Disney soda shop, and looked around in there for a little bit. And then we just kind of headed back to our hotel and relaxed, get ready for our reception that night. And people were arriving a lot. They were arriving pretty quick. So we got to see people coming in. I knew some others that were going to be there. So once we got to the reception check-in area, then I saw familiar faces. So we all kind of introduced ourselves, and we had we got to meet the guides at this reception, and they had all kind of props for pictures. We got to stand up and each person went around the room, and we talked about where we were from, what agency, because it was all travel agents on this particular adventure. And I think there was like 20 or 30 of us. I can't remember exact number. I thought it was 30. But we had two guides. Normally, if you do have a bigger party, they'll break it off into two sections. But we just had the two guides, two adventure guides, and they happened to be familiar with Hollywood. So they were our actual adventure guides that took us, since they were familiar. When you go to other cities, you could have your adventure guides, and then you have a local guide come in and talk about the local area because they live there. But in our case, these two guides do live there. So they kind of played both roles.
And just to expand a little bit more on the location that Donna's talking about, where the hotel was and everything. Whenever we were out there 2 years ago, we went to Disneyland for a couple of days, and then we spent a few days just going around LA and seeing the sights and everything, Santa Monica Pier. We drove up and to a certain area to get a good shot and got a good view of the Hollywood sign. And as we're coming down, we're looking for some place to, grab a bite to eat or whatever. And just happened to be this mall there that we decided, oh, let's just go in here. And it turned out to be the mall that you're talking about. That it is a gorgeous outdoor mall that has views of the Hollywood sign there. There was some little kiosks in like a covered walkway, and you turn to your right and the Hollywood sign is just there. And I talked to, I was like, man, who did your scouting location for you? Who found your location?
So perfect. Yeah. It's like a 3-story outdoor open air mall that has, like you said, those walkways. That's the same walkway that went to our hotel. So when we went back, we just took our pictures of the Hollywood sign because we knew we wanted to get that. And I had been to this mall before, so I knew where to go for it. But I didn't realize our hotel until that day that our hotel was connected right there. So we never really had to go outside again. We just walked over to that covered walkway and went right into our lobby of our hotel. And we were waiting for our room to be ready. So we had, time to do these things anyways. But yeah, it was nice because there's all kind of places to eat. There's shopping. We forgot a couple things. So we found a Sephora. We bought a couple things in there. And I was with 3 other agents from our agency. One that I roomed with, and then the other 2 had their room. So I don't get to see them all that often because one lives in Arizona. They're like all over the country. So it was fun to like kind of get to see our agents. One was a new one I had never met. So that was fun to kind of just hang out. Our BDM Marcy was with us, and we went, that's when we went looking for a place to eat. So it was just fun to hang out with everybody, and like, oh my God, there's a Hollywood sign. We were getting our pictures with it in the background. It was a lot of fun, and it was just day one, and I'm thinking, oh, we have so much ahead of us yet, so it's exciting.
And travel advisor lingo, the BDM is the business development manager that they work for, Disney or, Universal has them. Pretty much every big company, Sandals, they all have their regional BDMs who basically help the travel advisors, and they're an added resource for us to use, that they're like the expert in that field, that if we ever have a question, we can go to them and they can help us out with some things. And if big news is coming, we'll meet with them and things along those lines. Well, actually, we don't meet with them usually. It's Donna because she's younger who meets with them.
Yeah.
But with that mall, we were walking around it, and I turned around and just looked up and saw this outline of this building. I was like, wow, that looks like the Chinese theater. It was like, oh wait, it is. And so we walked around the other side and saw the Walk of Fame, and it was just by coincidence that we just happened to pull into this mall and happened to see all these amazing things. That it was really neat. Whenever we were there, it was right before Christmas.
Uh,
So in that open mall, they have kind of a plaza that's in the middle of all these, covered walkways, and they had bands playing, singing Christmas carols and
oh,
other
nice.
stuff. It was just such a nice experience.
Yeah. 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 I was looking forward to it because I had been there before and I've always wanted to go back. And all the times I went to Disneyland, I never did make it out there. So I just could not wait. I just had no idea that our hotel was right there. I was really excited um, to be able to just, walk 5 minutes and there you are on the Walk of Fame, looking at all the names and, looking over to Jimmy Kimmel where he tapes. And yeah, it was pretty neat. And you never know who you're going to see. And Hollywood Boulevard is, it's a thing that like movies you see, like things like Pretty Woman taped there, and the Chinese theater. The history there is like I can't even touch upon the massive history that comes out of there. But it was just so neat to be able to tour these places and get backstage access, literally backstage at the Hollywood Theater, which or the Chinese theater. But that was one of I think that was our next day actually. So that was a walking tour, and it was a good amount of walking, same as like at a Disney park.
Yeah, so the second day starts with breakfast at the hotel. Then you do the walking tour around the Chinese theater and the Walk of Fame, and you get to see all the handprints and signatures in the cement, and then the Jim Henson Company lot, which is where
Cool.
Charlie Chaplin Studios is.
That was very, very cool. We got on a bus. They had a big tour bus type of thing for all of us, and the guide would be at the front of the bus telling us what we were going to see, and what we could take pictures of, what we couldn't take pictures of. They let you know that. Um, we were on these little streets. It didn't look like we were going to be finding any studio. I wasn't sure what to expect. So we pull up to this charming little, it just looked like you'd have like maybe an outdoor cafe. And it was like greenery on the roof. And it was just so pretty. And then when you pull up to it and we just waited for them to open the gates because there was nobody in there except for us going in there. You see this big picture, this big like display of Kermit, like really huge. And then you knew where you were. So they let us all in there. And since we were a large group, part of the group went to one section and part went to the other. And then we crossed and then we traded. So we got to spend a smaller, time with the puppeteer and time with the tour guides. We got to see Jim Henson's office and sit at his desk. So it was just so cool to get our picture sitting at Jim Henson's desk and all of the awards that he's won, and the actual Muppet Kermit puppeteer guy was making them talk and everything, and it was just really neat. And one person got chosen to interact with the puppet as if he was on a show, and you just felt like you were watching an episode of the Muppets. You know what I mean? Because it was like right there. That's where everything was done. So it was a really cool experience. And the one really neat thing, as we were leaving, we were just kind of waiting for our bus to come back. And we were in sort of the entry area where the parking lot, there's not many parking cars for maybe like 2 spaces. Well, this black tinted window car pulled in. And one of the guides said, this might be AC/DC because they're expected to do a recording here. And we were like, oh, okay, well, that's pretty cool. So they parked. I thought maybe they would have rolled their windows down and waved, but they parked and we were all kind of getting our phones ready. They're like, no, not all any pictures. So I was trying to take a picture of something else, and right when they got out of the car, they waved, but they were going through like an archway where the studio is where they were going. But as they got out of the car, they kind of just like they got out both sides at the same time, and they waved to everybody, and we were trying to not to take a picture, but it's really hard when you know somebody's famous and you really just want to get that quick shot. But you know how a phone is. You can't, like, you're trying to get it open, like you're trying to like hit it, not be obvious. And I don't think I got anything but blur, you know.
Mhm.
But it was just really neat because that's who it was. You know, you just never know who you're going to see at these places. So that was a cool experience. What, you know, I'll never have that again happen. So
Yeah, the timing of that's just perfect.
yeah,
You
that's not
can't.
something that every adventure is going to get. That's the thing you have to remember. Like, it's just every single adventure is probably different in some way.
And for someone who grew up with the Muppets, and that just brings you back to your childhood. And
Yeah, my kids love that show. We love that show. Adults, you know, there was things that kids didn't even get the humor, and it was just so funny. And I wish that show would come back on regular TV. It's just so funny. And then everybody got a picture with the puppeteer, and the he held up his puppet in between. There was like me, the puppet, and then the puppeteer guy. And it was it was a neat picture to have, because the puppeteer, they somehow give them expressions, and it's just funny, you know, because you know how the Muppets are, just their faces make you laugh. So he was like this pink, it almost looked like animal, but he didn't have all the fur. And then he was giving us some backstage secrets, how they would make them move down underneath. They were in these teeny tiny little areas, and they didn't have much room to work, and they were working the arms and, you know, using the voices at the same time, and how it was really hard. The area was so small underneath. They would try, when they first started, they were trying to move the puppet from one section to another, and they were down under there running into each other trying to get that all to work. And it was just neat to hear, because when you're looking at it as a kid, you just think that's what they do. Like, there is nothing underneath there when you're watching the shows. You forget even as an adult that that's how it's done, you know. So it was a neat experience. I really enjoyed it.
I've seen some behind the scenes footage of different Muppets doing, and specifically with Star Wars, of doing Yoda, and it's amazing how they
Yeah,
do all that.
yeah.
And your experience arriving at the studio was kind of like with what we did whenever we were driving around. We went to Santa Monica Pier, and then wherever we're going for our next place to stop. And we're just driving down this little street. There's like a baseball field and a park off to the one side, and there's some houses. Then I looked ahead, and I see like a picture that looked like Terry Bradshaw. I was like, wow, go for Bradshaw. So, and we got up, and it was like, oh, there's Howie Long, and there's Michael Strahan. It's like, oh, we're at Fox Studios. And it's
Oh
just
yeah,
right
yeah.
into the street around this neighborhood. We just
Yeah,
okay.
that was neat, because even when we were on the bus, the guide was at the front of the bus standing with a microphone, and he would say, "Look to your right, you will see the gym where Walt Disney would go." Like, you know, with the fitness center, we call them fitness centers now, but like it was like where he would go. I forget the name of it. Athletic Club, something, Los Angeles Athletic Club or something like that. But that's where he would go, you know, and they were pointing out these different landmark areas that otherwise we would not have known what it was. I was hoping we would go, like, we were in Walt's neighborhood at different times, but we weren't anywhere near where we could point anything out. We were in the area where, like, him going to work, you know, going to the studios in Burbank. You know, we were in that area where he would pull in, like this was his entrance. And you know, it was just really, you know, where he had lunch at Tam O'Shanter, we got to see Walt's booth. We all got our picture taken in the booth where Walt used to sit and eat. No, the one downside to that was, um, there was an earthquake the day before our arrival day, our first adventure day. There was a 5.5 earthquake, and somehow Tam O'Shanter's air conditioning and refrigeration unit was, it affected it, and it was no longer working. So all of the food that they couldn't serve because it went bad.
Oh
It
man.
was, it got warm. Well, not warm, but not cold enough to, you know,
Mhm.
to use. And um we were kind of bummed because we were going to eat there. The plan was to eat there. So the adventure guides are on the phone calling at restaurants all over. I need 30 people. I need it now. What can we do? So when they told us about, we had a meeting with an Imagineer who had all these different pictures of the things that he had worked on and things. And we while that was going on, the adventure guides were busy getting us somewhere else. So we still got to go in and get our picture taken and look around. We just couldn't eat there. So sure enough, right across the street, there was another restaurant that had a huge room with a real long table that it could accommodate every single one of us. So they were that quick to get us in there. And I don't know if anybody else was supposed to eat there, but it wasn't full enough that they couldn't accommodate us. So that's where we had our lunch instead of Tam O'Shanter. So that part was a little bit of a disappointment, but I only really wanted to see Walt's booth. So that's the picture I really wanted to get. And they took us, our photographers were the actual guides. So they were doing all these pictures the whole time. And we got a link to every single picture that they took throughout the adventure from day one to the end. So we got that link and we have all these pictures. And that was one of the pictures I couldn't wait to see, was them taking it in Walt's booth.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. Definitely.
And then you get the afternoon in Hollywood and then the evening on your own, and you can consult with the adventure guides to say, hey, what would you recommend? Where should you go?
Oh, yeah.
Things along those lines.
Yeah. We became very good friends. In fact, the adventure guides gave us their cell phone number to text them if we had any questions at any point, any concerns, anything that we wanted to privately ask them a question or whatever. So you just felt like they were instantly friends with you. We had Danny, oh my gosh, I can't remember the other one's name. Danny was the one I talked to the most, and he was just the greatest guy. I ended up sitting next to him a couple times during the meals, and he was just so much fun to talk to. I follow him now on Instagram, and he goes all over the world. He does those private jet adventures too, every once in a while. Can you imagine a job where, I have to reschedule my doctor appointment. I have a private jet adventure for the next 3 weeks. So yeah, they're very good at their job. That's why they're doing what they're doing. But I felt really lucky to have them because they're local Hollywood people, and we had them for our guides. And that isn't always the people you will get. You'll always get somebody good, but I felt we were lucky to get the ones that we had.
Yeah. And you were just as you were describing all this, I kept thinking, yeah, I think that's my dream job now, being one of these adventure guys, especially in LA, to see all of that. Well,
Yeah.
no matter where you're going to go with Adventures by Disney, you're going to go to an amazing place.
Yeah.
Like being the adventure guide in Machu Picchu. Oh yeah, went there yesterday. Got to go there again. Such a tough
Yeah.
job.
I wonder if, for Danny, knowing him the way the high affinity love that what he has for Walt Disney, I think is what made it special for me, because I knew we were going to be visiting these historical sites, and knowing how he could barely talk about Walt without tearing up. Like that to me, I told him this. I said, having you for our guide and knowing your love for Walt Disney and just like I could feel the emotion coming from you. I said that just was like the highlight for me of this whole thing, was talking to him and just watching. I felt like he was like a brother. Like he loves Walt Disney the way I do. And to have someone do the tour that feels that same way really made the difference for me. So it was worth every penny that we had paid for this Adventures by Disney opportunity. I didn't even second guess for a second going on it, but it was so worth it. I would probably pay double what I paid just to have Danny do this tour. Like I would do it again if I knew he was the guide, and even do the same things. You know what I mean? It's something you want to repeat. And they say when you take an Adventures by Disney trip, it'll just be a matter of time before you take another one, because it is so immersive. And depending on where you are, for me, this was the highlight of all the adventures by Disney you could take. This for me is the best. And he just made it top notch. So, and I told him that, and he was like on the verge of tears. And he goes, "Oh my God, Donna, that just means so much to me." And, we were in Walt's apartment, and hearing him talk about Walt in the apartment, everybody in the room had tears in their eyes. People had tears streaming down their face. He handed me, which I still have behind me here, he handed me a Kleenex from a box of tissue in Walt's kitchen. And I didn't want to use it because all I did was like save it. I like put it in my purse. I zipped it up. I didn't want nothing to touch it. And he said, "Here, Donna." And I came home and I put that in its rightful place, right next to my partner statue, and I'm like, this can never be thrown away, no matter what happens in life. This has to be saved for all time.
Whenever I did the behind the scenes tour at Disneyland and we got to go into Walt's apartment too, we had a very, very good guide, and we got to meet one of the original cast members from 1955, and just having her talk. And you and I have talked about this before whenever we mentioned Disneyland, is that there is a special reverence out there that Walt Disney walked here, and it is a special place for a lot of the cast members because of that.
Yeah.
And it shows that they are cast members who truly love Disney.
Yeah.
And, being Southern California people, most of them, they've been going there their entire lives. Yeah. Most of them worked there for years. And it is truly something special. And they recognize that it's something special and treat it that way. And it comes through with their attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. And you feel that when you walk into the park. I mean, this whole adventure being tied in and around Walt Disney himself is the icing on the cake. Of even like the apartment is, I've been there before, but I don't know, there's just every time is like the first time when you go there. So that to me was, another set. I'm usually the first one in and the last one out because I don't want to leave it. But this time in Walt's apartment, we were before they were kind of funny about pictures when I did the Walking in Walt's Footsteps tour. But this time we were allowed to go out on the porch. We weren't allowed to sit on the furniture, but we were allowed to get pictures by the lamp. They took pictures of us looking out on Main Street, just like Walt used to. So they took these different poses of us right by the lamp. And before we were allowed to get a picture, but they were funny about getting too close to the lamp. But this trip, they took their time. Whatever picture you wanted in there, you were allowed to get. So that to me was, I don't know. I just can't get enough of it. I could go there every day. Can you imagine, like, you're the one dusting, like taking care of the apartment, and they do have somebody that does that just, I think that was one of the girls that opened the door for them, that let them in. She was like the keeper of the apartment, and she's the one that takes care of everything inside. She knew the history of every item in there, from the baby bottles up in the cupboard, Walt's grilled cheese maker, like it's all there. And they opened the cupboards and showed us all that. Oh, it was just so great. So I could go on forever just about that.
Yeah, that was part of the day three's activities. But before that, you also got to go to Walt Disney Studios and go into the Archives Reading Room and Walt Disney Imagineering before heading down to the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah. Well, I had been to all these places before. I've been to Imagineering before. I've been to the Archives. But I knew this would be better. I just knew it. So we split up again into two separate groups. Some went into the Archives, some went into animation, and just all these little doors that you are never allowed to go any other time. So when we went to the Archives, oh my gosh, I got to hold an Academy Award that Walt Disney won. Like, they took our picture holding the award. So that was really neat. And there's all kinds of backdrops like of Walt's, big full size, life size pictures of Walt on the wall. You just can't get enough of it. Like, we spent a little bit of time in there, not too much though, because the other group, it was a small room, and the other group wanted to get in there. So they took us down into the basement where no one ever goes, where you can go from one section of another to the different staircases where it will take you up to the rooms. And we had to be quiet because they were working. There was people in Imagineering working. So we got to tour, we got to see the original Snow White figures, the ones that are in the wishing well to the right of the castle. We got to see the original ones that they did break, and you could actually see they had to make a mold to make the ones that you see on stage, but we got to see the ones that broke in shipment, and there was a crack, and you could just see, like, we were getting our picture we stood all behind these, and you could see the crack where they had been, had to have been repaired. And the person that knocked them over, or whatever happened, how it happened, was, worried they were gonna, like, oh my God, like what just happened? These things were, history, and they were broke. So I was like afraid to even touch them. Like, we were kind of standing with our arms down, like I didn't want to get too close to them. We got to see all the molds of the Hall of Presidents, how they made the presidents' heads, and there was a lot of things, we weren't allowed to take pictures other than the ones that they took for us. We weren't allowed to take pictures back there, which is understandable. We got to experience a sound theater and how they make the sounds, and it was really cool. Like, you really felt like you were behind the scenes of what goes on in making a Disney movie or making a Disney attraction. Yeah, it was really neat. I loved it.
Going to the studios is definitely on my list of one of my trips out to Disneyland. I have to get over there. Now with my life situation, it might take a few years until my little girl gets a little bit older and can appreciate stuff. And I know she's not going to try and grab something and break it. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I think there is an age.
yeah,
I didn't see, as we were at the studios, we met back. Well, the one disappointment I did have, and I put on my survey, I think a VIP tour of the studios should include Walt's office. And I thought that it doesn't say anything in the description. And I think sometimes it's up to the guide doing the tour of the studios. If it's busy or if there's something else going on, they can't do it. But I really, really, really wanted to go inside Walt's office. And that's the only disappointment I had. We got to eat at the commissary where, Walt used to get his chili. We got to eat in there, and we got some shopping time. Mickey's of Glendale. Was that, I'm getting mixed up with where the Mickey's of Glendale. I thought it was at the studios. But I bought a few souvenirs that has Walt Disney Studios on it, my t-shirt. Trying to think what else I got. There was a ton of things, it was a cast member store. There was a ton of things you could buy, but I didn't want to buy too much because I have things from there from before. But I think I bought a bracelet. That's what I did. I bought a really pretty bracelet. So yeah, you get a little shopping time, and it was a hot day too that day. So we were trying to find shade, and it's the studios is untouched. It kind of looks like it did, like if you watched Saving Mr. Banks. It has the shade trees and, the same color buildings, the awnings, and they explained all about the way the buildings were situated when they were the way the sun hit the angle, and then when they were doing like the drawings for like Bambi and things they explained all the reasoning behind even the awnings, like I said, on the building. It was just really you don't think about these things. When you watch a movie, you're not thinking about all the things that Disney puts into the making of the movie and all the Imagineering geniuses that did it. So it was just kind of neat to, there was stages we couldn't enter because things were going on. I could just roam around there like freely all day. Never know where you end up when you open that door. Ink and paint, there was an ink and paint building, and Fun times.
And Mickey's of Glendale is the Walt Disney Imagineering campus store. So it's probably in Walt Disney Imagineering somewhere around there.
Yeah, that was, well, the Imagineering is a separate, that's in Glendale, but the studios is in Burbank. But that we did that the same day. We just went from one in our bus from one to the other. The Imagineering is where we saw the because I kind of combined them two together. The Imagineering is where we saw the Snow White figurines, and they showed us the sound stage, that how they do the different sounds. That was that. That was another one where we did the two groups. Pretty much everything, since we were a large group, they didn't want to cram us into a room. And the rooms are small, you don't want to touch anything. So we kind of did those two separate things, the two separate ways in groups. But that was a full day. And it was a lot of walking, because you were walking all over the studios, and then the Imagineering, you couldn't sit anywhere. So when you weren't walking, you were standing. And we were like, can we just get a bottle of water? And there they are right there. We go back to the bus. Under the bus, they had a big thing, a cooler with all this ice water. So that was nice. Why is I getting this?
Yeah. Do you need to take that?
No, I don't know what, it seems to be a spam.
And the other tours that I've done just at the Disney parks is they have their water available. Specifically, one, it's not available now, that took you to all four of the parks and got to see so many backstage areas. It was an all-day tour that they were constantly here. And I went in July whenever I did that one. So it's always, here's water, here's water, here's water.
Yeah,
Stay hydrated.
they're good about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I took it every time. And then you can leave everything on the bus, because the bus is following you. That's your bus for the day. So if you wanted to leave your backpack, because you do, once you do sign up and maybe a month before your trip, they'll send you this, like a gift box, and it had a water bottle. It had a backpack, like a really nice it was really nice. And pins and all these little things that, you could keep in your backpack. I took that water bottle with me and kept ice water in it. And I kept that in my backpack on the bus. So if I ran out or anything, I knew I always had that. And I think a lot of people did that. You could put your things you bought in the backpack if you wanted to. So you have to carry those, bags around and everything. So.
And there's an older Disney movie called The Reluctant Dragon, with, is it Peter Benchley, I believe? Guy's Benchley, who's like the main character in it. And it's from the 1940s, probably 1950s, that he gets to go walk around Walt Disney Studios. So if you want to sort of get a vicarious way of seeing it, at least how it used to be,
Yeah.
it's a very creative movie. It's a short movie. It's like an hour and a half, maybe.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that being part of that movie. I think I saw it on World of Disney, on Wonderful World of Disney. I think I saw that movie. And I
have the DVD of it. It's either Peter Benchley or Robert Benchley. One of them is the guy who wrote Jaws. The other one's the guy who is in the movie. So.
Oh, it's probably Robert then.
Yeah. Peter Benchley, he wrote Jaws. But that's really neat to see all that stuff, and that's again on my list. And then after this long day, you got to go down to Disneyland Resort and stay. Did you stay at the Grand Californian?
Yeah.
So that's what they do, and you get a welcome dinner at one of the park restaurants, and then that's when you get to do the tour of Walt's apartment, and then you get to spend your evening at Disneyland Park.
Yeah, that was nice. When we changed hotels, one thing I wanted to mention, you never touch your luggage again. Like your luggage, they get your luggage from your room. That is moved to your next hotel. It'll be waiting in your room when you get there. So you don't have to worry about any of the transfers. So we went and they handed out our card keys for the next hotel. Most of the rooms, some were ready and some weren't. And then we would meet in the lobby. Anytime we were going anywhere as a group, we would meet in the lobby. And then they directed us over to, where did we go? Yeah, we went to California Adventure, and we sort of had the VIP ride experience. We're all going to ride Radiator Springs, whatever they could get us on. as a large group, we all did some went in one thing, some on another. And that was really cool. And then we had, oh, that World of Color wasn't that day, but, where did we
Yeah,
have,
that's the end of the next
I
evening.
think where we had lunch that day.
Yeah, you get lunch
I
in the
think it
park
was
somewhere.
on our own. I think the dining card they gave us, I want to say we had lunch at the Plaza Inn, but I can't remember. I love the Plaza Inn. That's where Walt's Fried Chicken is. So, I think it was there. I can't remember now exactly where it was, but I think that was it. And I think it was on our own. I don't think it was, I mean, it's paid for already. I just don't think that it was done as a group like the other ones were.
Yeah, and did you get to go behind the scenes in Cars Land that day?
Um,
That's what they offer now, at least. So
they
you
do, but there was a problem that day because we didn't do it. Instead, what they replaced it with, we definitely didn't do it that day because one of the Imagineers that works behind the scenes at that attraction came out and explained something. And I remember we were all like bummed out about it, but they replaced it with behind the scenes at Indiana Jones.
oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so we went behind the scenes at Indiana Jones, and we got to run. They had a car in there that they were working on, the big Jeep car, and there was all kind of buttons and everything, and he was showing us how this works, how that works, and how you press this and the car will go forward. So we were literally running the car. He said, take turns and come up and press how you want the car to, and you would see it like tilt and go back and, forward. And so we all did that. And they were working on, it was like a garage for broken down cars. They were, refurbishing some and doing that. And then later, I think it was the next day, we ran into that man that was showing us how all that works. We were over by Haunted Mansion and we remembered his name. Whoever I was with remembered his name. And I says, oh, you did our Indiana Jones demonstration. He goes, oh, I remember you guys. So it was really neat because I said, you're not there today. And he goes, no, I'm walking the park today. So they get to do all these things. They're not always behind the scenes, but it was just neat because we remembered each other.
How about that for a job to be able to walk around the park? Oh yeah, yeah. Tough day at the office today. Had to walk around Disneyland.
Yeah, he had one of those, like I call it a garbage grabber, but he would
Yeah,
those
clean
little
it up.
sticks that they use and they pick. He had one of those, and that's what they do. They'll walk around just doing anything that might need done, answer questions or whatever, and then they look for things that they can help with. Like because Walt always, Walt had everybody tasked to do, like even picking up the garbage. Like to this day, if I see a paper in a Disney park, I pick it up because I'm thinking, what would Walt do? He would pick that up. So you have to pick it up. If you see any little thing of garbage on the ground, don't wait for a cast member.
And that's the thing that whenever he was building Disneyland, people said, "Why do you want to build a amusement park? They're all dirty and whatever." He's like, "Mine's
Yeah.
not going to be." And
Yeah.
he
Yeah. His
specifically,
wife said that. His wife was like, why would you want to do that? Like, they're dirty. No, ours won't be. So,
in there, if you walk around either Disneyland or any of the Walt Disney World resort parks, that there is a garbage can. Was it every 20 feet?
yeah, I can't remember the exact number of feet, but yeah, that's why there are so many. There's just no excuse. And I know even holidays, there are people out there emptying those, and they have at Disney World, they have those garbage suction system underneath it. When it's put down, it's like shot through some kind of a
The
pipe,
pneumatic tube, yeah.
yeah, into the main waste area where everything is, removed. But it's an incredible. Now they don't have that at land, but it is really neat that they ever even thought of doing that.
And there's a psychological factor too, that if there's garbage all over the floor or over the ground, it's not a big thing if you drop one extra thing. But if nothing's there, you think twice about it, and especially when the garbage can is 20 some feet away,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
not gonna, it's easy to throw stuff away.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's true. Yeah. That'd be a
but the
fun,
night,
like even being a custodian would not be a bad job. You get to hear the parades and, see the parades and maybe fireworks, that's not a bad job either when you think about it.
and I've talked to some of the guys in Walt Disney World who were, wearing the white jumpsuits, and they're, sweeping
Yeah.
things up, and they're great resources of if you have a question, hey, where is this? Where is that? And the one I talked to, he had a bunch of the maps stuck in his back pocket. It's like, where do
Yeah.
we go? He's like, here, I'll show you. Pull out the map and pointed
Yeah,
to
that's
something.
great.
And
That's great. And at Disneyland, you'll find you do have some very few, but there are some original cast members that it's just neat to talk to them. You know,
Mhm.
they don't mind just stopping their job and talking to you, and they're allowed to do that because they're assisting a guest, and that's part of their job. So they don't mind, asking them a question. And you can, I think there's some kind of designation on their pin or on their name tag. They have certain pins for how many years.
Mhm.
When I worked at the Disney store, I had a Steamboat Willie. After my first year, I got a Steamboat Willie pin. And then after 5 years, I think it's Donald. I think. I can't remember now because I left right before 5 years. So I didn't get that pin, but they have those year pins that kind of signifies how long they've been with the company. And those are the ones that really, have been there, could tell you a lot.
One of the other things that is really, really good about the Disney name tags is that they have the languages that the person speaks. And
Yeah.
so anyone traveling from, different country or, English is not your first language, that they'll have people who speak, especially Spanish. That's a big one. But even in Epcot, you see going around the countries that they speak different languages, and you'll see that
Right.
scattered throughout the other parks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's nice.
the custodians who are sweeping up, if around them enough, they do drawings with water on the ground, or they'll sweep
Yeah.
some of the. I think I was in Mickey's Toontown in Disneyland, that there was a tree there that was dropping its leaves at the time, and they swept the leaves into the shape of Mickey's head and left them there. And so it wasn't,
Yeah, that's neat.
they make works of art, and
Yeah.
I've seen them do some amazing, amazing detailed drawings on the ground, with just the water, and they'll do the drawing, walk away, and then it dries up, and then they'll do another
Yeah.
one later on.
Yeah. And I always get a picture of them. If I happen to be lucky enough to come across that, I always take a picture because I think that's really neat how they're just, they're probably, I don't know if they're a real custodian or they're just dressed like one, but they're really an artist that they're hired for that reason. I'm not really sure, but it's a neat thing to see and come across. Just the
I did,
Disney details. It's another example of the Disney details.
and that's why whenever you're at a Disney park, keep your eyes open, that you can see these little things and little special things that happen all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
So, but getting back with the end of day 4 after your lunch, you got the rest of the day at the parks to do your own thing with a park hopper ticket. So you can go anywhere.
Right. And we did. Yeah. Yeah. We went back and forth quite a bit. For the times that we had on our own, since I don't get out there a lot, there were certain things I wanted to do. And Stephanie, who I was with, one of our agents, Stephanie, she goes to Disneyland like once a month. So was just kind of showing us around and making sure, she knew how to kind of navigate the easiest, fastest way to do things. So we were kind of just picking up, doing what we could. I was trying to gather some content, try to get some pictures that I hadn't had. There was some new things that I hadn't been on before. I could never convince anybody to do the Mickey's Wheel of Death, but so that trip I didn't get to do that. Nobody ever wants to ride it, and I thought for some reason it doesn't bother me, but it bothers a lot of people. But I don't know, I like it, but I thought it was kind of fun, so I don't know.
And for those unfamiliar, that would be now what's called the Pixar Power Round,
Yeah.
which is their Ferris wheel. It used to be Mickey's Fun Wheel. That we did the stationary, so it's a big Ferris wheel. We did the stationary one, but they have some of the gondolas that actually swing and move and are on a little track that whenever the Ferris wheel moves, you definitely move with it. So
Swinging back and forth. And my husband will never go on it again. So, and I, I don't need to ride it. I don't have to. But if anybody would be like, "Oh, I'll go on it with you," then I would do it. But not too many people ever want to do it. So
yeah,
we didn't get to do that.
I couldn't quite convince my wife to go on the moving one, and I didn't think my little girl would. She's quite adventurous, but I wasn't sure how she'd react to it. So I'm
Yeah,
sure one of these times she'll want to go on
yeah,
the
just to
the
try it.
Rocky. Yeah.
Little kids can take it, but for some reason, like I have upside down bothers me, going backwards bothers me. I'll get vertigo problems, but for some reason that doesn't bother me, and I can't even go on a swing set, and it kind of bothers me. But for some
Mhm.
reason that just never bothered me. But I might that it could be a time the next time it will. So I'm almost afraid to try it because when you're on it, there's no getting off till it's over.
Yeah.
So if you're sick, you better have something to do, like to take care of yourself. Yeah, my husband for 2 hours after that, he wasn't feeling well. So it can be, you got to watch. That's one thing you do have to watch, but it makes for great pictures if you're on the ground.
Mhm. Definitely. And what Donna mentioned, Stephanie, that's the one who lives in Arizona, and she's been on this podcast a couple of times about different destinations. So she has a wealth of knowledge about many different things. She was on comparing Disney World and Disneyland with me, and also talking about her visit to Sandals
Oh,
with a
right.
couple of their
Yeah.
advisors.
Yeah. Yeah, she does get around, you know, from one end of the country to the other all the time. World, land, sandals, like all of these different things that we do. I always know when I ask Stephanie, she's going to do it. She'll gladly step up and take one for the team.
I have to go to Sandals and visit some tropical islands again, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well,
No, there's that expense and time off and things like that. So it's amazing she can get she very successful agent. She gets so many clients and is so wonderful with it that I don't know how she manages her time with all the travel and getting all the things booked and everything else.
yeah, with her family and everything. Sometimes they'll go with her, but not on the travel agent trips. It's just us. But and the opportunities that come up, she's always willing to do them. And I think that's great because you can show your expertise having been there. That makes such
Mhm.
a big difference.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah, she was another one when I said, oh, I'm definitely doing this. And then she emailed me, I'm doing this. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna room together.
On day 5 of the trip, you got breakfast at Disneyland Park, then got some privately guided backstage tours, including, and they say in the description, an iconic attraction. It varies, depends on what's available and other things. What did you get on that day? Was it the Haunted Mansion that you went through?
Um, Yes, we went on the Haunted Mansion because the line was so long and we walked right in. So we didn't have to, we just, our whole room, the whole room, when you leave like the stretching room and go into the next section, that whole room was us. So we got to, you have to pair off into twos or whatever. And I believe it was this time of year. It was a year ago, this trip. And it was Nightmare Before Christmas. So we got to see the Haunted Mansion overlay for that. And that was my first time ever seeing it. And I really, really liked it. I wanted to ride that more than once because I just thought that was really cool how they did all that. It's so different from Disney World. So for me, that was really like a neat thing to see how they do that.
Although Disney World went to the Nightmare Before Christmas as well last year when we were there right before Christmas that they had it. So they're making the adjustment there as well.
Yeah, they had the Hatbox Ghost finally made it to Disney World, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But did I miss it that Disney World did the overlay of Nightmare?
This past, at least Unless I'm confusing my trips, I thought that it was this past year when I went, on the inside at least.
I don't remember. I don't remember them doing that overlay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, the
Again, being to Disney so much, we'll be back there
Hat,
this
the
December. But
Hatbox Ghost, I know that they finally got that, and that was the same as Land, but I don't remember any overlay or any closure for that. But I've only been there one. This is unusual for me. I've only been there once this year so far. So my last trip was either November or December in 23 because I was in February, but my last trip of 23 was, I thought, the holidays, but I don't remember seeing anything like that at World.
maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm thinking of Disneyland because we went to Disneyland in December 22, and then we went to Disney World December 23. So I think you were there just before we went down. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll tell you after I go this year.
yeah, I don't remember. But it could be that I missed it, but I don't think, but I'm not sure. So much to keep up
I know. So many
with
things.
everything, it's just hard.
And
So yeah.
then in the parks, you got lunch on your own. You got to spend the afternoon in the parks again with the park hopper ticket. Then you had a farewell dinner, and then the VIP viewing of World of Color.
Yeah, that was really great. We had the lamplight lounge right literally on the World of Color stage practically. It's right on the water. And we had a whole group of us down in the downstairs section. That's when I sat with Danny and we talked for like the whole time. Um, and we just went right across the bridge, went into the VIP section of World of Color, and perfect seats. I mean, I think, did we stand? Yeah, I think we were standing because the dessert party gets the seating. So we were standing, but we were up very close and recorded some of it. Just watching, for Danny, as many times as he's seen these shows, he still just loves it. Just watching their reaction. He told us that certain things to watch for in the show that they put in like a nod to a certain character or a certain storyline. So we were kind of like being careful to watch for that. And then after that, that was pretty much the end. Like we knew that was our grand finale. We did have breakfast in the morning, but then we were on to the airport and our trip was over. And it was I mean, I hate to say trip of a lifetime because I would love to do that again. I would love just to do it all over again. But for me, it was my first ABD. So that made it special. And I got to experience it with my agents, which even was better. So
Being on there with people that you know and
yeah.
know fairly well, and yeah,
Yeah, and
it makes it
appreciate
special.
it. Yeah. And they all wanted to be there. Like, I give the opportunity and hopefully people will take advantage of that. And then that, they really wanted to be there. So we got to have, I think our breakfast was at Goofy's Kitchen, which
Like
I've never had
Disneyland
breakfast
Hotel.
there. Yeah, it's like a Chef Mickey's, but it's at the Disneyland Hotel. And I got to, I had never, I've had dinner there, but I did never have breakfast. Being that this is a year away, I hope I'm not mixing up my meals because it was a year ago. So I don't, there's certain things I do remember that stick in my mind, but the meals and the days we had them, I'm not positive, but I think our breakfast was there. And then the pickup, as it's over, back to the airport. But I think I did Long Beach, or did either Long Beach or John Wayne Airport, which again, I will avoid LAX no matter what I do.
Yeah, and they do take you to any of the three. So the pickup
Yeah.
was from LAX or LaGuardia, or yeah, LaGuardia, it's LGA's Long Beach, just because that's closer to LA and where they're going from. But with Disneyland, it's uh, fairly close to John Wayne airport code SNA, and
Yeah.
that's the one I usually fly into and out
I
of.
like that one too.
That's a
Yeah.
nice.
I think that trip I did do John Wayne because I'm familiar with the airport. Um, I had they take you, I can't remember the time of my flight offhand, but I knew when I got to the airport, I had quite a bit of time. So I kind of just went down by the John Wayne gigantic statue and just kind of sat there and reflected on the trip and caught up on some work. And I had I think I had Terminal C, so I was at A, and I had to walk a ways down. So I just kind of took my time. I was in no rush. Um, my luggage was already checked, and I just waited for my flight time, and everything was on time. And you know, it was just a great, from beginning to end. The trip was, except for the earthquake, which was kind of neat, but I didn't feel it because in the lobby, none of us felt it. But if you were up in the rooms, you felt it.
Mhm.
Like Marcy came down and she said, "Oh my God, did you feel that?" We were like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "I had to get some ginger ale. I'm not feeling that great." So she did feel it. And it's weird because I was going to go to D23 this year, but I didn't. Well, if I would have, it'd have been my second earthquake because they had an earthquake during D23 too. And I didn't get to feel it because I didn't go. But I've always wanted to experience it. And there I am right there in Hollywood and didn't feel the earthquake. So, oh well. That's okay. I mean, it's not something you probably should want to feel, but I just, you know, it was a new thing for me. I just wanted to see what it was like, but oh well. I mean, I did see like the water was moving. We saw like
Yeah, like
in
Jurassic Park type thing.
yeah, yeah, it was very, very small. We had glasses of water sitting there in the lobby. There's a nice sitting area. We were just kind of hanging out waiting for our room to be ready, and it wasn't. And kind of, you know, we would have had it. We probably would have been in our room and we would have felt it, but we were just waiting.
Yeah.
So that was our trip.
The I felt a few earthquakes. One was when I was in college in Erie, and the we were it was 1999. It was my freshman year, and the we felt one. We were in the dorms, and when it shook a little bit, and the one kid was taking a nap.
Really?
Woke up. We said we had an earthquake. He's like, "No, you're lying." And he didn't believe us until he saw it on the news. It wasn't a real strong one, just a little bit of shaking. And then sometime in the early 2000s in Morgantown, we felt a little one. It was whenever it was stronger in DC and damaged the Washington Monument. We felt it a little bit here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I never did. Even like we've had like
Back in the
bits
80s,
of
Pittsburgh had one.
really? I mean,
I
yeah,
remember
I
that.
remember hearing about stuff, but I still never felt it. Like I'm never in the right place or like there I am in California. All the times I've been there, nothing, that was the first time and I still didn't get to experience it. My friends were in California, Grand Californian, just for D23, and I woke up to earthquake. I guess the 3 hour difference, I was in bed and they were still up when it happened. And I had my phone on do not disturb. But so when I woke up to it, she had a video of the chandelier in their room going back and forth.
Oh, wow.
And it was a smaller I think we were 5.5, they were 4 point something, 4.4 or something. So you wouldn't think that it would make the chandelier. That doesn't sound like much of a um you know, earthquake
Mhm.
4.4. Like some people don't even feel that. In California, they're just used to it.
Yeah.
They don't think anything of it. Oh, that was only a 4, you know. Meanwhile, we're like, oh my God, like if that's what I would do if I felt it. But yeah, haven't had it happen yet.
And to close this out, also they have discounts often for past travelers or for booking early. So if you go on one, going again
Yeah.
can save you a little bit, or if you know you definitely want to do one, book it as early as possible, which we can help you with. So
Yeah, because they do fill up. And there was we had somebody just book, I can't remember the destination, but it was filled, and it's up to the guide if they were willing to add an additional person beyond what they normally take. And if it's going to affect the guest experience, they won't add anybody else. So it's best to just book it early when the prices are as low as possible. because it could go up as it fills. So then, you know, that's what we recommend anyways. Adventures by Disney is truly like a for some people, it could be a once in a lifetime trip, but you might think that till you experience it and you want to do it again. And you can make payments on it. You can make, you know, you put your deposit down and then you can make your payments. And it's just something that you won't be sorry that you did. Some of them are with families, some of them have the age minimum, but if you can do it, if you find one that you want to do, it'll be unlike anything, you know, you've ever done before. I know the one that goes to the Vatican, the Adventures by Disney people go into the Vatican after the public has left. So you're not with those crowds. You're just in there by yourself. And from what I heard, normally you can't take certain pictures, but with the Adventures by Disney people, they do allow some pictures. So it's, you know, it's quiet. Can you imagine being in the Vatican with no one around? You know, like you just feel like this is special. So it's a VIP all the way. You're just treated like gold. So they make it worth it. Definitely worth it. And they handle everything. The plane trip, you know, the flights, everything, your transfers, the tips for all of the people that they're giving you the tours. They do accept the guides that are doing the adventure guides. You can tip those. That's something that we took care of individually. We took care of our tips individually. But other than that, everything's taken care of, like your luggage transfers, like your bus driver. You don't have to tip out. Those people are all taken care of. So it's all inclusive in a different kind of way.
Mm-hmm. And just to have closure, it is only Disneyland that has the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay. It is not Walt Disney World. So I was thinking of the Disneyland trip whenever I was
Yeah.
talking
Yeah,
about
it's
that.
hard because the mansion is, you know, you're just picturing the darkness, and a lot of the scenes are the same. So
Mhm.
you can't really think about, like, where did I see that?
Yeah.
But the Hatbox Ghost, which was only at Land for years, now is at Disney World, Walt Disney
Yes.
World.
It's in
So
a different
or it
location,
did
but
transfer, yeah, over. It is in a different location, but you can't miss it. So
yes.
don't cover your eyes when you're in the Haunted Mansion. Nothing scary in there. It's all your imagination.
They're happy haunts, okay?
Yes, right.
So, Donna, do you have a travel tip to add, or was that last little bit what you wanted to
Um,
have as your tip?
my tip would be to roll with the punches when things happen. Like we couldn't do Tam O'Shanter, and while we were disappointed, we knew our adventure guides were on it. So just have faith that whatever they replace it with, it'll be maybe not as historical as Tam O'Shanter, but we still had a really good lunch. So just roll with the punches. Things happen, things change. You just have to kind of pivot, and it's not going to affect your vacation. So, you know, everything is not the entire adventure. There's certain parts that out of their control. So you just kind of have to accept that, and you're still going to have a really, really wonderful time. And usually something that is very minor. It's not something that they foresee, or they would let you know ahead of time if it was something that was major in your adventure. You know, hopefully it would never have to be canceled. But for us, it was just a restaurant, but you just kind of have to accept it and move on. It was disappointing because I just always wanted to eat there, but we still got to go for the pictures, and that was nice. And they were very nice to let us sit there as long as we wanted to get all of our pictures in Walt's booth. So that's my tip. Just roll with it. You're there, you're still going to have the best time of your life. It's not something that is going to be devastating. You know what I mean? They're doing the best they can. You can always count on them to get you a good replacement. So
That's great advice. Goes along with don't sweat the small stuff And by the
Yes.
way, it's all small stuff, and
Yes.
focus on enjoy what you get to do. Don't worry about what you're not doing.
Exactly.
Being in the
Yeah.
present.
Yes. Be present in the time you're there. Um, when I look back, it's not what I remember. I remember so much of the history and how much the guides contributed to the experience. So like I even when I was thinking back on my for talking to you, I literally didn't even remember that until when you said about the tip, and I thought, yeah, that didn't bother me that much. That's my tip. Don't let it bother you. You know, it's not gonna affect your trip at all. You are not gonna remember that you didn't eat at Tam O'Shanter. You still got to walk in there. So next time, you know, there'll be another time probably that I'll be out there. You could even go eat there on your own. You don't have to have a, you know, you could do that. You could, you know, hopefully you'd be able to get seated. It's a popular place, but you know, because Walt ate there. But you could still do it on your own if you're ever out that way. Something to look into. I'm not sure if they take reservations, but yeah, that's my tip.
Very good. My tip is know the difference between value and price. And I've talked about this before, that price is what you're going to pay, but value is what you get. And Adventures by Disney is a great value. Yes, it's expensive, but you get your money's worth and even more with everything you're going to get out and the experiences that you are getting. And, you know, one caution is that going on an Adventures by Disney trip will ruin every other vacation that you take after that, though. You know, as Donna was saying and describing, you get treated so well. You have such an amazing experience, and you get spoiled. It's kind of hard for other vacations to live up to that. And she mentions before, earlier in the episode, that once you go on a Adventures by Disney trip, it's most likely that you will go on another one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true. That's what I agree with that. It as much as I go to the parks, I saw the parks in a whole different way when I was there with Adventures by Disney. And I've been to the Imagineering campus before, I've been to the studios before, but I saw it a completely different way with Adventures by Disney. And I knew that would be the case. That's why I wanted to do it. I could go there once a year and probably see different things every time. So yeah, the value of that experience is for me off the charts, but and I am a Walt, you know, I do like the history of Disney. I love Walt Disney stories and the history of Walt Disney. I even took a class, the history of Disneyland. I took a class, like a 6-week class on it, just to learn more about it. And a lot of it I did know already, but there were some things that I did learn. So for me, the value is like, it's priceless to do this. But I think anybody that just loves Disney, maybe not all that history, you're going to love this anyways. So I wouldn't, you know, hesitate to recommend it, highly recommend it.
And as Don was describing some of the studios and the buildings and everything, there are a couple books. One is guy's last name is Thomas. Is it Bob Thomas? They wrote Walt Disney, an American Original. That he goes into some of the design elements of the Walt Disney Studios and why they made decisions they did to make it like the double H, and you know, with the air conditioning and having, you know, the shutters the way they are, or like the window shades and things like that. There's another book too. It's a longer book. I think the last guy's name is Gamble who wrote it. I can't remember the name of that book, but he goes into a whole lot more detail with Walt's life. And so reading some of those books to give you the background information before you go on these trips really can help bring it alive and give context to what you're seeing and what you're experiencing.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. When I stayed at the Disneyland Hotel for the first time, I revisited my book on the making of the Disneyland Hotel and how it changed over the years. And then when I was there, I was like, oh, that's right. This is where the pool used to be. And this is the original building. This is the original, like where the monorail stopped. So I just like knowing that, you know, I don't know what it is. There's, if everything has changed, but when you look at these old pictures, you can kind of see in your head, like I like the one part of the book that I have was, here's what it used to be. Here's what it looks like now. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I see how that, you know, fit in. So, but that's just, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I like to do when I go to the West Coast parks is kind of look how it used to be. And like Walt's apartment is exactly how it used to be. Like there's nothing changed there. Except for there's one less Kleenex, which is on my bookcase.
And unused, very important note of that.
Unused, yes. I'm like, can you just give me another one, maybe because I need this to save this and put it in like a case in my curio. So, anyways, yep, that was a good trip.
So Donna, thank you very much for being on with me again today. I love your stories that you tell, and um, it's obvious how much you love Disney, and you bring the energy of that love, and it just makes for such a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. I could sit here probably the entire afternoon and just talk about just how I feel like walking in Walt's footstep tour, doing this. If there's any tour that I could take that will get me closer to that feeling you get when you walk into that Disneyland, it's not the same as Disney World for me. That feeling that you get, and then seeing the cast members who loved Walt, and even the ones that didn't know him, it carries down from the elders to the younger cast members, the ones that truly love Disney for Disney and not because it's a job. That's who makes the difference every day. It's those cast members who make the difference. And, that's what I like about it. It's just, you can have a conversation with somebody in the gift shop that's been there since, I'm an original cast member, and I have talked to those people, and it's just fascinating. So you have to take the time. It's not always about the attractions. Take the time to kind of look at the history and talk to the people that have been there so long, and there's a reason they're there so long, and that they make the difference.
And that's a good point that we've brought up here on the podcast before, is that when you're at one of these parks, having fun does not necessarily have to mean being on a ride or watching a show or something along those lines. If you're just sitting on a bench and enjoying people watching, if you're talking to a cast member and learning something, if you're catching one of the shows rather than being on Space Mountain, that, if your goal on these trips is to have a good time and make memories, and
Yeah.
if you are doing that, then you are accomplishing your goal, no matter what way, shape, or form it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Even though the parks have changed over the years, there's still that foundation of like Town Square and the firehouse, and it's so worth it to take the tours. And if you can't afford an Adventures by Disney, do the behind the scenes walking in Walt's footsteps, or there's different ones at Disney World too, that you kind of get to feel. And it might want to make you take an Adventures by Disney to expand behind the scenes even more. That's how I started, like doing the smaller tours. I'm like, oh, I really want to, Then when my friend told me she could get me on the Imagineering campus, and then at the studios, we had literally, she's a cast member, so we literally had the run of the studios. No one questioned us. Now that was prior to, was it prior to, no, it was after 9/11, come to think of it. But I didn't think that would ever be allowed. When she said, oh yeah, we could just go anywhere we want. I'm like, oh my God, like this is fantastic. So, but I didn't have anybody there to tell me about it. Where with Adventures by Disney, you're going to have somebody there explaining everything. So there was a huge difference there for me, eating in the commissary, even things like that, like this is where Walt got his chili. This is where, that they had it still on the menu, and just little touches, like that. So I could go on. I know I run over because I can't stop talking about it.
Fine. We'll have you on again in the future. It's all good.
Okay. Sounds good, Matt.
So, for those of you listening, if you have a destination or experience that you'd like to have us discuss on the Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your favorite destination or a travel tip, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear about your ideas and your feedback. if you're already working with a Dreams by Design travel advisor, then please continue to work with him or her. Otherwise, Donna, how can people get a hold of you?
My email is donna@dreamsbydesigntravel.com. Any emails that I get looking for quotes, I will, match you up with any one of our travel professionals that could handle, maybe somewhere close to you or someone that really knows the destination you're looking to book. And I can take care of that for you. And I'd be glad to do that.
So for me, my contact information with social media, I'm at Matt with DVD on Facebook, X, and Instagram. My email is matt, M-A-T-T, @dreamsbydesigntravel.com. The website for our company is dreamsbydesigntravel.com, and all this information is in the episode description. So you can contact us to book a trip, or if you have any questions and you don't have to write this down right away, you can always look it up there. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend, help us get the word out about the podcast if you like what you heard. Join us next time. We're heading out. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye. Thank you.